Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So today's update is going to be relatively interesting because I really want to take a revisit once again to talk a lot more about the fourth stimulus checks. Now, I know there is a lot of controversial and mixed opinions. There are a lot of people that hopefully still really believe in a stimulus check, which is awesome. And obviously, there's also a lot of people that are not necessarily opposed, but at least at the very end of the day, are kind of just uncertain now. They're not sure that they even want to believe that there's going to be any more stimulus checks coming into the future, which I think today's video is probably going to be perfect actually, because we are really going to be exploring the situation of fourth stimulus checks from both sides. The people that actually really support it, and then some people that actually are maybe not fully in support of fourth stimulus checks. Now, the biggest reason why we're coming back to visit this is because a lot of things have changed ever since the last time we talked about it. So if you have heard any kind of past update about fourth stimulus checks, I think today will hopefully be a lot more unique because we've received a lot of new information and a lot of new statements that have come out. For example, the last time that we talked a lot more about checks, the Omicron situation was not released yet, so we didn't even know anything about the Omicron the last time, we talked about it. And also, the Feds, specifically Jerome Powell, had not made any particular announcement about how our country is doing economically, actually. And this is actually, I think, something that not a lot of people are talking about right now, but especially how this relates to stimulus. I think that a lot of times it's very fair to say that as recently as some of you guys may or now do know, is that when Jerome Powell came out to talk a lot more about how the country is doing economically, this is absolutely important if you are someone that follows the stock market. But in a lot of ways, it's actually also pretty important for stimulus news. And I think that's the side that a lot less people are talking about right now. So that's what I really want to cover in today's update. So we're going to talk all about everything, but as always, 10 seconds real fast, the same exact rule as always. Consider smashing the like button if you guys enjoy videos like this. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell. Huge thanks for everyone that has kind of just come by and really followed along. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or maybe predictions, especially by the end of whether or not you support stimulus or believe in stimulus checks. Hopefully most of us support it, but it's a lot more about believing in it right now. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So we're really going to be talking about the two sides in today's video, probably starting with a lot more about the support for stimulus checks. Because the really great news is that because of what's been happening over the last week, the biggest change is that now there's an even growing support for more fourth stimulus checks, and you might have even seen new articles pop up. The biggest reasoning why is that because now that we do have the new rise in Omicron, and because there is a lot of uncertainty to what's been going on in that world, it does mean is that while even though it is true that Biden announced there won't be any kind of lockdown at this current time, and I think that's maybe great news. Of course, it depends on how you see whether or not you support the lockdown, but at that very end of the day, even if there is no lockdown, which is what Biden has officially announced, there definitely will still be a lot of impact to people and how they kind of just do things now that we do have the new case. So for example, just by having this case out there, even if we, let's say, don't have a lockdown of some kind, the big thing is we will probably now start to see a new wave of people that maybe are hesitant to go to work now. This is especially true because we did talk about a lot of the stimulus programs that might potentially be coming out for those unemployed, people that, lose their work related to that. I'll put that at the very end screen. It came out yesterday. Most of you guys saw it. Huge thanks, but just in case, because it talks about the unemployment side. But the big idea is that at the end of the day is that even if they don't necessarily end up locking down, if people are starting or eventually start to be a lot more hesitant to go back to work, if maybe people start to resign, if maybe people start to change their careers, and even more specifically, I think, is that if there starts to become a cause of concern, even if it's mentally, it is very possible that it can also, at the very end of the day, make people a lot more conservative with how they spend money, which in other words, what this really means is that it means that people are a lot more hesitant now to be able to go out there and use their money because they want to really protect it. And it makes sense. And that actually is one of the reasons why a lot of research has already come out to prove that stimulus checks for most of last year, it works. Because by giving people money, it means that they're able to spend more money, and it also helps businesses to grow, and that is a very, very great thing, and I think it's really awesome. Now, of course, I think it's also important to talk a little bit about the opposing side of the argument, because that actually is something that Jerome Powell, which is one of the big changes and announcements, recently did come out to talk about. So the story right now with that is that based off of, if you want to just listen to his speech, you guys probably have already seen it. Maybe I'll put a link to it. But based off of what he mentioned inside of his speech very, very recently, the big idea and takeaway really is that he feels that right now our country is actually in a lot of debt. And that's a very, very hard thing. And there's also a lot of fears about inflation, as most of you guys know. So there is actually admittedly, and again, that's why we're going to be looking at it objectively. Hopefully both sides can find something insightful to this, is that there are actually some people that will be very, very hesitant to do more stimulus checks at this time. And the big reason why is because it really is going back about a balance at the end of the day. And many, many people feel that because of what is happening right now, there is a very high probable chance, and not just a chance, but a plan right now, that the feds are planning to print a lot less money and potentially maybe even just stop the printing altogether, at least certainly for the time being. If this ends up happening, then the story is that there's a very probable chance, or actually not just chance, but literally what's happening right now, that it is very, very probable that there may not even be physically enough money to do more stimulus checks because of how much in debt they are. So it's not that, right now, it's not that they're not printing money, it's that they're printing less money. But eventually, even if you have, if you're printing less money, you can still use the money that you have to do more stimulus checks. But eventually, if they end up just pausing it altogether, there may be a chance that there may not even be physically enough money to actually do more stimulus checks. So it's really, really complicated right now because they have to try to find that balance between everything that's happening. The inflation, the stimulus checks, the unemployment rate, the stock market. And it's a very, very controversial, or just simply put, complicated situation that they're really in. Maybe feel free to comment your particular opinions. If you guys had any, if you guys do support, or if you guys maybe do support, but whether or not you guys believe in more stimulus checks and everything that's happening. Now, what is my personal belief in this situation, I think, is that I believe is that it will probably be very difficult to try to do some kind of federal stimulus check program, especially because of everything that's happening. However, I do actually genuinely believe that it is very, very possible we may start to see stimulus checks, but just happening on a very, very focused level. There is still a very, very strong push in order to try to obviously bring the child tax credit, which already exists. They just, want to extend it. But there's also another push to try to do some kind of stimulus check that's very, very targeted specifically to older people. And they think it's because there are a lot of people that are on things like Social Security benefits, SSI, SSDI, and all of those, similar related programs that can really use a lot of help, especially since they never did, have that increase for like, Social Security and a lot of the other programs. This can be something to potentially maybe make up for it. But beyond this is that's what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So hopefully really trying to present it from both sides so we can hopefully really understand what's physically happening right now, especially with so many announcements and changes that have just recently happened. So if you guys found that relatively insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button. If you guys, haven't done so, maybe consider subscribing for similar videos. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about honestly just really anything. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. And Wild, have a great start to the brand new month, because we are crazy to think now entering into the final month of this year. Wild how fast time flies. So hope to see you guys next time.